So, how do we navigate forgiveness, practice letting go, and truly move on after the cuckoo crazy cult childhood we experienced? Well, it's not easy, but it's definitely necessary to try if we want to heal and grow. Here's my not so sage wisdom from one slightly wiser than I used to be child survivor. Hear me out, and I'll share some tips and tricks that have worked for me that I definitely learned the hard way. Like, why is there no guidebook? All right, let's talk about forgiveness, the big, scary F word. Navigating forgiveness feels like trying to dance through a minefield while wearing clown shoes. It's one of those words that should probably come with a warning label. In Scientology, forgiveness didn't exist. There was no, hey, let's talk this through and find peace. Just a whole lot of blame games, shaming, and ethics folders. Oh, you did something wrong? Go write up your crimes. We'll dole out your punishment with, and then you get to publicly grovel. And then maybe we'll trust you again. We'll see. Yeah, no thanks. Now that we're free, what the heck do we even do with things like compassion, empathy, and letting go? Here's what I've learned from one forgiveness skeptic to another. Number one, forgiveness. It's complicated. Not for everyone, and not always the magical thing they sell in self-help books. There is no magic wand, and it's not like, poof, forgiven. And let's be real for a second. How do we forgive people who haven't even apologized? Let's face it, most of them never will. Or what about the ones who can't apologize because they're still in way too deep? It feels like forgiving them would be giving them a free pass. I used to think forgiveness was about letting people off the hook. Like saying, congrats, you traumatized me, but it's cool. We're good. Nope. Spoiler alert, that's not forgiveness. Forgiveness is actually more about freeing yourself from the hate and resentment that's weighing you down. Because carrying around that anger, it's exhausting and it's poison. Forgiveness isn't saying what you did is okay. Nope. It's saying, I'm not letting this keep me stuck. You don't have to forgive everyone, and you definitely don't have to forget. But for your own peace, it might help to release some of that pain. Forgiveness is really about us. We're not endorsing what happened. We're just deciding not to lug around a 50-pound suitcase of resentment anymore. You know that grudge you've been nursing like a pet rock? You've worn it so smooth over the years, holding on to it like it's a part of you. But as familiar as it is, it's dead weight, and it's crushing your vibe. Forgiveness is like dropping that boulder. It's not for them. It's for you. Don't try to forgive everyone at once. Start small, like forgiving your past self for believing Tom Cruise was some pinnacle of spiritual enlightenment. Baby steps, my friend. Or forgiving yourself for not seeing through the lies or leaving sooner. You were a kid, you did your best. And maybe practice self-forgiveness before even thinking about forgiving the people who hurt you. Practice makes perfect. Number two, acceptance. Making peace with what happened without liking it. How do we accept the past when it still hurts? Sometimes I worry that accepting it all means giving up on ever getting justice. Am I just supposed to be okay with all the crap we went through? That's the big question, right? Nope. You don't have to like it. Acceptance doesn't mean you're okay with what happened. It's more like acknowledging it instead of fighting the reality of what went down. It's saying, this sucked, and it's not fair, but I'm not letting it define me or my future. I used to replay every awful moment, thinking it would somehow change. But all that did was keep me chained to those crappy memories. When I finally said, this happened, it hurt, and I'm choosing to move forward, I felt a little lighter. Acceptance doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough about your future to stop being frozen by the past. If it helps, do something symbolic. Write down the worst stuff you're ready to accept, and then set it on fire. Carefully, though, don't start a forest fire. It's surprisingly cathartic and only mildly dramatic. Number three, compassion, the thing we were never taught. Why does compassion feel so foreign? Oh, right, because in Scientology, it was seen as weakness. It seemed like everyone was out for themselves, and showing care for others got you labeled as namby-pamby or thiety-weety. I mean, seriously? How did we even use words like that with a straight face? If we demonstrated tolerance, it signaled danger to everyone watching. Being unreasonable was rewarded. Compassion? It would have been seen as complete spinelessness. But here's the thing. Compassion is actually a superpower for healing, not a weakness. And it's okay if it feels awkward at first, like trying to pet a cat that clearly hates you. I will say learning to be compassionate is like trying to use a muscle we never knew we had. Start with people you care about and work your way out. Sometimes that even includes the people who hurt us when they were also victims of the system. People who harmed us were often just cogs in the machine. They were hurt and controlled too. That doesn't excuse their behavior, but understanding it can help us, maybe, find a little compassion. Even a drop is powerful. If full-blown compassion feels impossible, start with curiosity. Ask yourself, what even made this person such a mess or such a bully? It's not about excusing them. It's about realizing that hurt people really do hurt other people. You don't have to like them or forgive them, but trying to understand might make the burden lighter. This doesn't mean we're throwing them a pity party. We're all just here trying to be less of a mess. Number 4, empathy. The skill we're all just figuring out. How do we connect with other survivors, especially those who hurt us or played the bad guy roles in ours or others' stories? How do we treat them when we're all healing in different ways? Like, how do I not clock someone who used to be an enforcer but now wants to catch up and share trauma stories over coffee? That's a trip, right? Seeing someone who used to report you for blinking wrong, but now realizing they were just as trapped. Empathy here is complicated, like trying to untangle last year's holiday lights, but it helps us recognize each other as survivors, not villains. Empathy doesn't mean pretending what they did was okay. It's more like, wow, we were all drowning, just in different ways. You can still keep your distance while acknowledging their humanity. One day in an X group, I ran into someone from my past who'd really hurt a friend of mine. At first, I wanted to squash him like a bug, to stand up for the kid my friend had been at the time, for the kid that I was too, back then. But then I remembered, this guy had been a kid in Scientology. He was manipulated and groomed to be what he became. He suffered also. We had a really awkward, tentative, uncomfy, but also healing conversation, and it helped me see him as a person, not just a monster. I realized both could be true. Maybe be gentle when connecting with other survivors. We're all carrying trauma, shame, and guilt for things we did or even didn't do back then. Some of us are further along than others. Some are still really struggling, and some are definitely still in Scientology light mode, while others are more healed and evolved. So practice using empathy, but don't sacrifice your boundaries. Remember to protect your peace and that you're allowed to walk away from anyone who makes you feel unsafe. Number 5, healing is a hot mess, but we're doing it anyway. Healing isn't fair, it's not linear, and we'll stumble. We'll accidentally slip into old habits, we'll get stuck in old anger, or see someone who hurt us and feel that fire of hate again. But forgiveness, compassion, and letting go aren't gifts we give to the people who hurt us. They're gifts we give to ourselves. Yes, our old trauma flares up, but here's the thing. Healing is about progress, not perfection. It's about choosing peace, not because it's fair, but because we deserve it. When we can, let's laugh at the absurdity of what we've been through. Practice a little self-compassion, and maybe forgive ourselves for the times we weren't perfect. And even try to forgive others who weren't perfect too, if we can. We survived something pretty outrageous, and now we get to be creative in how we heal, because we're free, and that's something worth celebrating. From this moment forward, we get to write the ending to our own stories. Let's write the one we've always deserved, full of healing, growth, and some joy. Let's keep trying, even when it's messy. If you have any tips or tricks to share, drop them in the comments, please.